Hello, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The South Caribbean Conference of Seventh-day Adventists delivers its services through various departments, such as the Youth Department, the Education Department, the Health Department. Today, the Education Department and Health Department of the South Caribbean Conference together take pleasure in welcoming you to this first installment of the series Kids Health Online. This is particularly planned with preschoolers in mind. We believe that learning is closely wrapped up with health. And so, today, as we present the information from a medical doctor and a dietitian, we trust that the presentation will be well received and be of benefit to you and your children. On behalf, therefore, of Mrs. Jessica Cunningham, the Director of Education, and myself, Elmer Bruce Frederick, the Director for Early Childhood or Preschool Education, I want to welcome you, and at this time, or very shortly, Mrs. Victoria Dicoto, the Director of Health, will take charge of the program in this health segment today. Again, I say welcome to one and all. As we begin our program, we ask that you join us in prayer for God's guidance through this session. Shall we pray? Heavenly Father, we thank you for the blessings of today. We thank you also for the blessings of our children. We realize that we have a responsibility towards them. And we realize that they are your children that we are keeping for you. We ask that at this time, as we engage in this exercise, your blessings would rest upon us. May we learn what is right, and may we be willing to practice so that our children can be the best. Please, God, we invite your presence with us to direct, and we submit ourselves to you. As the presenters present, we ask that you take full charge and may your message be clear. We ask these mercies in Jesus' name. Amen.
Greetings from the Health Ministries Department. It's a pleasure to be with you all this evening. We realize that through this program, we are seeking to develop healthy eating habits in our children and in our students. To help us with this, we have two presenters in particular. We have Dr. Kadinia Gary Stevens, and we have Miss Alana Walker, who will be sharing with us, along with Mrs. Margaret Chrysostom from our IADPA bookstore. To start the evening rolling, I want to introduce to you Miss Alana Walker. She is a registered dietitian who for over 10 years has worked as a clinical instructor at the University of the Southern Caribbean. Before starting her career in academia, Ms. Alana worked as a medical delegate with a multinational organization. Prior to this, she worked as a dietitian at the Port of Spain General Hospital. She has also worked on wellness committees for private organizations in the capacity as a consultant nutritionist. She's a mother and a wife who is active in her local church and supports family in youth ministry. She has many years of service in the children's ministries department of her church, and she has a great love for children. So this evening, she's going to present to us nutrition for preschoolers. Thank you, Sister Alana.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's my pleasure to be with you today. And I just want to share some information. Some of you may be familiar with it, and some of the information may be new to you. It's about keeping our children healthy and well and preparing them for life ahead. So I'm going to share some information with you at this moment. Now, today we're going to speak about nutrition for preschoolers. And the preschool age is a very important stage of the life cycle. It's a stage where children learn so much. Now, we admonish in the Bible as parents and as caregivers to train up a child in the way he should go or she should go. And when he or she is old, they will not depart from it. And this is taken from Proverbs 22:6. And the best way that we can train children is through a good example. So that in terms of preschool development, characteristics are intellectual, social, emotional, physical, and spiritual. So, in terms of the intellectual development of the child, this is when the brain becomes very active. They like to engage themselves in activities like puzzles, building blocks. They're very curious about a number of things. They like to interact socially. However, at this stage, they tend to be a little bit selfish because they everything surrounds themselves. Emotionally, they can throw a few tantrums here and there, and some of them can remain quite attached to their parents. Physically, it is a stage of the life cycle where there is some growth, even though at the age of about 4 or 5, growth tends to slow just a tad bit, depending on the child. Spiritually, it's a good time to engage children. They know about Jesus. They understand that Jesus has come and he has died for them, and they love Jesus. So it's an excellent time to introduce the Bible to them. Speaking about the Bible, we have a spiritual example of how we ought to eat. And this is a good story. It's a very popular story that we can tell to children about Daniel and the three Hebrew boys. And we can read the scripture there on the screen. Daniel purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with a portion of the king's meat, right? Nor with the wine which he drank. Therefore, he requested of the prince of eunuchs that he might not defile himself. And so, what was he given? He was given pulses to eat and water to drink. And those are the foods that we should encourage our children to eat. We should encourage them to eat a plant based diet. Even though they may be eating meat, we should concentrate on our fruits and our vegetables. And this admonition not only comes from the Bible, but it also comes from the research that has been done. Now, there is some research coming out from the American Dietetic Association that says that the plant-based diet helps in terms of preventing chronic diseases. It strengthens and fortifies the body. So that the plant-based diet is very important for good health. We next want to look at the nutritional needs of the preschool child. Now, even though we understand that all nutrients are important because we have to have the principles of proper eating and dietary principles, meaning that you are supposed to have adequate nutrients. You should have balance in your nutritional intake, and we should also have um, adequate calorie intake. And you can see there that the calories that are needed for the preschool child can range between 1,000 to 2,000 calories. Now remember, the preschool age is from 3 to 5 years. So that depending on the particular age, the calorie content may vary. There are some notable nutrients that preschoolers should have. Even though we mentioned that they should have all the nutrients, there are also some very important ones at this particular stage of the life cycle. And these nutrients are proteins, fats, carbohydrates, folate, calcium, very important for the bones. Iron is important because they are still in a stage of rapid growth, so that the cells are dividing and they need to have new red blood cells, so that iron is very important. Fiber is important so that they don't get constipated. Vitamin A and C are also very important. Vitamin A is important for things like the skin and the hair and also the eyes, and vitamin C is important for the skin and also maintaining immunity. Now, if you are to look at the daily food plan for preschoolers, you would see that fruits, vegetables, grains, protein foods, and dairy are part of our food groups. And depending on the age, for example, 3 year olds can have 1.5 cups of fruits, and as well as 4 and 5 year olds. And the fruits may vary. Now, one point about fruits, we have a wide variety of fruits in Trinidad and Tobago. So we want to encourage our parents to buy local and also buy in season. Vegetables are also very, very important. So that you want to have adequate, about 1.5 cups of vegetables is very good at this point in time. In terms of our grains, grains are very important because this is where the preschoolers are going to get their energy from. So, about 4 to 5 ounces of grains are essential for the preschoolers. Protein foods. Protein is important for growth and maintenance of tissue. So, about 3 to 4 or 5 ounces is very important for the preschoolers. Now, you can get your proteins from both meat as plant sources of protein. Dairy is very important for the preschoolers. You can have whole milk is preferable, although if you have a child who is a little bit on the heavier side, you may want to have low fat milk as an option. In terms of serving sizes of common foods, now we looked at how much they should have, but it's also important to know how much is a serving. So in terms of a serving, half a cup of fruit is a serving, and about 1 glass of fruit juice or half a cup of fruit juice is a serving. Half a cup of cooked vegetable is a serving, and 1 cup of raw leafy vegetables is a serving. A serving of protein is about 1 ounce, and that may vary. So, for example, the in terms of meat, 1 ounce lean meat is a serving. In terms of lean meat, poultry, or fish, 1 egg is a serving, and ½ ounce of nuts or seeds, as well as quarter cup of cooked beans or lentils. 1 ounce of grains is a serving, and we would like to say that again, when we are eating grains, we want to encourage parents to give their children more whole grains. And what we mean by whole grains, we want grains that are not as processed. So whole wheat flour, oats, if it's cornmeal, all of those are good options for grains to serve to preschoolers. Half a cup of cooked rice is a serving of grains, as well as 1 cup of ready to eat cereal. In terms of dairy, 1 cup of milk is a serving. Now, for those preschoolers who are vegetarian or vegan, you may opt for a plant-based beverage as an alternative. What do we mean by this? We are talking about oatmeal, oat milk, or you can have rice milk, or more popularly, almond milk or soy milk. Those are also good options, and they are fortified so that the preschooler is not going to miss any essential nutrients. In terms of oils, 1 teaspoon of salad dressing is a serving, one and also 1 teaspoon of most oils and butter. So we must encourage a healthy diet in our preschoolers. So we can look at the Choose My Plate, which is on the left of the screen. On that plate, you can see that half the plate should be fruits and vegetables. And what we observe is that most of that half of the plate should be vegetables. And you might ask why. Vegetables are less sweet than fruits, so that they are going to get or give the preschooler all the vitamins and minerals with less sugar. But fruits are also important, and they're very tasty too, so that the preschooler can have a wide variety of local fruits. On the right of the plate, you can see that grains and proteins are there. And of course, we said most of the grains should be whole grains, and then proteins, you can either have meat proteins, food proteins from meat sources, or proteins from vegetable sources. Additionally, dairy is also important, so that, as we mentioned, the preschooler can have dairy, or they can have plant-based beverages. So let's see what goes into the lunchbox. In the lunchbox, you can see fruit, you can see sandwiches, or alternatively, wraps, or you can have pies or vegetable pizzas. You can have your dairy in the form of cheese or yogurt. You can also have vegetables of a wide variety. Whole grains, you can also have your whole grains and dried fruit. And oh, yes, not to forget, water. Water is important. Parents and caregivers may opt for giving their children water instead of juices in the lunch box. It's important also to have healthy snacks. What are some of the healthy snacks that you want to encourage your preschoolers to have? Now, please notice some of those beautiful pictures that you're seeing there on the screen. Yes, parents, we have to get creative in how we present the food. because we want them to eat all those healthy foods. So you have to get creative in terms of how you present it. Remember, this is a time at which the child is very creative, very inventive, very imaginative. So you too have to get imaginative in terms of how you present the food. So you want to keep healthy snacks in your refrigerator or pantry. So that means when you go to the grocery, you cannot linger in the snack aisle or at the register where they have all the nice snacks. You have to keep it moving and encourage children to select healthy snacks. Offer a variety of snacks. Have a schedule for meals and snacks. Don't let kids eat in front of the TV, or I might add, when they are on other devices. Keep mostly healthy foods in the house. Serve skim or low fat milk or water with snacks instead of sugary drinks and soda. Limit 100% juice to one serving per day. And make sure your preschooler is in on the action. Keep an eye out for mood changes, right? That may affect eating patterns. Share a healthy snack with your kids. Right, so in terms of healthy snack options, we have some ideas here that we would like to share with you today. Hummus sandwiches, those are really tasty. Locally, we sometimes refer to it as chickpeas paste or chana paste. That is very nice and it is a healthy snack option that is low in fat. Mini vegetable pizzas. And I might add, if you're making your pizzas, you may want to consider using whole grain pizza dough as opposed to regular white dough. Fruit salads, those are also a very healthy option. And you can get creative in terms of using cookie cutters to cut out your fruit shapes. And of course, always get the children involved. When they are involved, you have buy-in. They will most likely eat what they have prepared. Fruit and vegetable smoothies are always a favorite. And guess what, mummies and daddies? You can hide some very good vegetables in some of these. Even in your pizzas, in the sauces, you can hide vegetables that preschoolers may not traditionally like to eat. Fresh or frozen fruit popsicles, another very good idea. So all this mango that is all about that we have right now is very abundant. We want to freeze some of your extra mango in slices. And then we can make a mango popsicle or we can make some mango smoothies. Raisins or prunes are a good option, but we have to be careful with our dried fruit. They may pose a choking hazard. Applesauce or fruit slices. And I mentioned mango before. You can have mango slices. You can also have watermelon slices. Fruit or vegetable muffins is also a good idea. Healthy cookies. And let's get very local now. With tomato chocolate dip with sada chips. Say, for instance, you've made some sada roti 2 days ago and it may be getting a little stale. Why not brush a little olive oil on it, sprinkle some dried herbs and seasonings, and pop it in the oven? And that chip will get nice and crispy, and you can have a tomato chocolate dip with it. Eggplant fries with marinara sauce is another excellent idea. So there's some do's and don'ts of dining. Because just as how we want to encourage them to eat the right foods, we want to also encourage our preschoolers to have excellent table manners and etiquette. So encourage your preschoolers to always sit at the table for meals. Encourage them to use the right utensils using knives and forks. If they may be a little bit awkward at the moment, you can offer to them a plastic option of a knife and fork. Avoid devices like the phone and the tablet at the table, right? There is a school of thought that says that you can have them have a toy, one favorite toy, which may calm them down. But that is optional. You want to encourage them to sit at the table undistracted. Encourage family conversation. Encourage also good manners. May I have the bread, please? Can you pass this for me, please? Encourage them to eat well. Also, let them set the table with you after they have helped you prepare the meal. Set the table and also clear the table together. There are some foods that we need to be a little wary of. There are foods that may cause choking hazards. And recently we had some very unfortunate news of a young child who choked while eating. So it's important for caregivers and parents to note some of the foods that children are prone to choking on. And these include dried fruits and nuts. Now we use a lot of chana and split peas, and sometimes we even offer our preschoolers salted prunes. These are some common snack foods that are used in Trinidad and in the Caribbean. So we want to be very careful and not offering our preschoolers these kinds of foods. Hot dogs, both the hot dog bun as well as the frankfurter, those can cause choking hazards. Seeded grapes. Now we have to be careful about grapes. The seeds of the grapes as well as the skin of the grapes can cause choking to occur. Peanut butter also can cause choking because it tends to be a little bit clammy in the mouth. So that if there is no fluid, no liquid to drink while they're eating it, it may cause a choking hazard. Apples are one of those foods that commonly cause choking hazards. So we recommend that you make applesauce. Now, guess what? We are in the Caribbean, so we don't always have to make applesauce, and you can make it from scratch. We can make pomsite sauce, which is what we call golden apple. So we are not limited to apples alone. We can use our local foods to make sauces for our children. Popcorn is a common food. It's a snack food. It's a party food. It's a excursion food. It is a food that can choke. So we have to be careful of that. French fries, very commonly served to preschoolers, can also cause choking. Chewing gum, tough meat, and the number one cause of choking in children and in preschoolers is hard candy. Dry bread can also cause some choking as well as raw vegetables like carrots. So you have to be careful with these foods. So in order to help prevent choking, you can cut to size, you can ground, you can puree these foods to reduce choking hazards. In this age group, we also must be mindful of food allergies. So, what is an allergy? An allergy is when the body's immune system has a reaction to any food or drink that is consumed. Now, food allergies are quite different from food intolerances. So, an example of a food intolerance may be lactose intolerance. And lactose intolerance is different from food allergies. Usually, food allergies occur as a result of some protein in the food or some specific allergen in the food. So the high allergy foods includes nuts, milk, eggs, wheat, soy, shellfish. Now, in the wheat, gluten in particular causes the allergies. On the right, you can see we have some other common food allergies. which would include, for example, MSG. And MSG is in a lot of our snack food items, and it is one of the more common allergens. We also have among us some picky eaters, and wow, this is a big cause for concern in many parents and caregivers of preschoolers because we don't want our children to starve. And sometimes they can be quite adamant about what foods they are going to eat. You have to, of course, respect the child's appetite, but you also need to develop an eating routine, schedule, and to it. Stick to it. Stick to it. Consistency is important. Be patient with new foods. Don't be a short order cook. What do we mean by that? A short order cook prepares meals as they are requested by diners coming in. So that means if you have cooked a meal for the child, that should be the only meal that you're cooking for, or for the family. That should be the only meal that you're cooking. You should not have to cook 2 and 3 meals to satisfy the preschooler who is a picky eater. Make mealtime and eating fun. Recruit your child again, also encourage them in helping. Set a good example. So that means we have to eat healthily. Be creative, be creative, be creative. Minimize distractions at the table and do not offer food as a reward. For example, do not offer dessert as a reward for eating food. We have a number of preschoolers who are vegetarian and even vegan. For this group of preschoolers, there are certain nutrients that will become very important for them. So these nutrients include protein, iron, calcium, vitamin B12, vitamin D, and omega 3 fatty acids. So protein is important because if they're going to be, particularly for the vegan preschoolers, if they're only going to be getting their protein from plant sources, this means that they need to get complete protein. So they must have a balance between their grains and their legumes. So within the day, they should have sufficient grains and legumes to give them complete protein. Also, if they consume plant-based beverages as well as soy and tofu, they can have adequate protein. Iron is essential. If the vegetarian needs to get adequate iron, they can get iron from legumes, nuts, dry leafy vegetables, as well as breakfast cereals that are fortified with iron. It's important to note here that this iron needs to be taken with a source of vitamin C to increase absorption of the iron. Calcium is important for growing bones. So dark green leafy vegetables as well as fortified plant-based beverages as well as firm tofu can give adequate calcium. Vitamin B12 can be had if it's a child who is vegetarian, whether lacto over vegetarian, they can get their B12 from eggs or dairy. If it is a vegan child, they can get their B12 from fortified foods. Zinc is important for growth as well as immunity. And the best sources of zinc are meat, fish, cheese, as well as whole grain cereals. So you have to include, if it's a vegetarian preschooler, dairy or whole grains every day. Vitamin D is also important, so it's important for them to run in the sunlight. Also, it's also important for them to get their vitamin D from the foods that they eat. And fortified foods are a good option, as well as fish and eggs. The best sources of omega-3 foods include fish and eggs, and they can also get it from flaxseed, walnuts, canola oil, as well as soy. So I just want to share with you today some recipes, some exciting recipes that you can use, and very simple. You can offer, as opposed to regular potato fries, you can offer sweet potato fries. Try to always offer this with some sort of sauce or dip to make it easier for the preschooler to swallow, as well as to prevent that choking hazard. There's also Caribbean passion popsicle, and I really love this one because which child does not like a good popsicle? And what I like about it is that you can hide a lot of very good fruits and vegetables in this recipe. So you can use a blend of your local fruits and fruit juices, and all of the fruits can be fresh fruits which you have frozen yourself. If you have excess of any fruits, you can always freeze them and use them in your smoothies and your popsicles. As well as you can add some very good vegetables like that excellent kale that can be added. And as you can see, you can have a multicolored, a layered popsicle. And isn't that exciting? I have tasted a few of these myself and it's quite enjoyable. Vegetable pizzas are always a good option and well received by preschoolers. And as I mentioned before, you can hide a lot of your vegetables in the sauce. So you can make that tomato based sauce and then you can put your zucchini, your kale, you can really hide some vegetables. For the vegan uh, preschooler, you can use cheeses made from tofu and cashew nuts, as well as you can use whole grain dough when you're making your pizza. These are few resources that parents and children can use because parents, we want to be educated about how best to feed our children. And we want to, especially in this COVID period where a number of preschoolers are at home, we want to have them engage in learning about eating healthy. And these are a few references from where the material was taken from. At this time, we can entertain any questions. Are there any questions?
Right. Yes, there's a question I want to ask Sister Alana. I mean, parents would ask me this sometimes. How do I get a picky eater to accept different foods when I've attempted all the recommendations?
Well, first, let me empathize with that parent and
Yes.
say to you that all wisdom comes from God. So, first of all, I would advise that you pray so that you can get some knowledge and understanding of how to treat with this particular child. Start from the foods that the child likes to eat. So, start from there and slowly incorporate other food options. Don't give up. If the food is rejected, you can get frustrated. Hide foods. We just mentioned some examples of ways in which you can hide foods, and so that they may not know what the food is in the particular meal that has been prepared. So, for example, in the popsicles that we just gave as an example, in pizzas, you can also hide ingredients in cookies, in muffins, in bread. All of these are areas in which you can hide ingredients so that they don't know what it is. Blend it up well so that they will not be able to recognize it. So those are some of the strategies that you can use, but you have to be consistent and keep at it. Variety is the spice of life, and the only way that the child is going to get adequate nutrients is from eating a variety of foods, especially fruits, vegetables, and whole grains.
Okay, thank you very much, Sister Alana. So you have covered a wide range for parents on how to deal with these things. So I'm suggesting that we move to our other section now because I believe we can go back and view this online so parents can get the recipes and so on. All right, thank you very much. At this time, we want to move to our second presenter, Dr. Kadinia Gary Stevens. She's a medical professional for 12 years. She was a former secondary school teacher. Concerning today's topic, she has her master's in food science and technology, her postgrad in dip emergency medicine. She's the mother of a picky eater, the wife of a vegan vegetarian. And she's vegetarian, lacto ovo vegetarian for over 35 years. So we're going to be looking now in terms of our children's health. We just spoke about our eating. Let's look at our health now. Thank you, Dr. Gary Stephen. I think you need to unmute. We're not hearing you.
Right. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Let me try this again. Right. Now, can you see the PowerPoint?
Not yet.
No.
Just share your screen with us. Up to
I
you.
did that. Now, can you see it?
Yes.
Okay. Wonderful. All right. So I'm going to look now at the medical side of children's health, looking at the effects of poor nutrition on our preschoolers. Now, globally, undernutrition estimates that approximately 178 million children worldwide are stunted, 55 million are wasted, and most of these kids live in our developing countries. Now, while Trinidad and Tobago is considered a developing country, you may not see some of the illnesses that I speak about this evening here in our country, but it can happen. We do see it on a clinical basis. The main cause of these deficiencies are loss of micronutrients, which can lead to maternal and child deaths, low birth weights, maternal and child undernutrition, wasting, stunting, and delayed child development globally. It is well established that 12% of the global deaths of children less than 5 years can be attributed to deficiencies in five major micronutrients: vitamin A and D, iron, zinc, and iodine, whether singly or in combination. Maternal micronutrient deficiencies are widespread and have major public health implications in developing countries. Right, now there has been, however, great progress in global health. However, factors such as poor breastfeeding, poverty, food insecurity, and we saw some of that when COVID started. Some people didn't know where their next meal was coming from. Inappropriate feeding practices for infants and young children, poor hygiene and poor sanitation, as all these contribute to child undernutrition in developing countries. There has been many efforts to combat and reduce these factors, and we are getting some progress. Right. So the bottom line here is that both undernutrition, malnutrition, where you will have excess of nutrition or undernutrition, both of these can be assessed by your primary care physician. You may need a clinical exam to find the cause, whether it's obesity from an endocrine or genetic origin, whether it's malnutrition from behavior or from what they are eating. You might have to do some routine lab studies. All children right here in Trinidad, when they go to clinic, their weight and heights are plotted on the growth charts so that the clinicians can see where they are, whether they are under or over, and we can try to do the corrections necessary. So first, we're going to look at nutritional deficiency. These occur as a result of poor dietary intake, increased nutrient loss, increased nutrient and energy requirements when we see patients with chronic illnesses. So we have 4 major subforms of undernutrition: wasting, stunting, underweight, and deficiencies in vitamins and minerals. So undernutrition, the reason why we're emphasizing this, it makes children more vulnerable to disease and even death. So what is wasting? Wasting is low weight for height. It indicates a recent severe weight loss because a person, mainly the child we're talking about today, hasn't had enough to eat. Maybe if they had an infectious disease such as diarrhea, which has caused them to lose a lot of weight quickly. A young child who has severe wasting has an increased risk of death, but treatment is possible. What is stunting? Stunting is low height for your age, and it's a result of chronic or recurrent undernutrition. So somebody who has a poor socioeconomic status, poor maternal health and nutrition, frequent illness, and inappropriate feeding of that child, right? This holds back children from reaching their physical and mental potential, right? Underweight is a child who has low weight for age, and a child who is underweight may be stunted, wasted, or both. In terms of our vitamins and minerals, these are important. They enable the body to produce enzymes, hormones, and other substances essential for growth and development. The major ones we need to look at are iodine, vitamin A, and iron. These are important in the global public health terms, and their deficiency represents a major threat in the health and development of populations worldwide, especially in our preschool children, and when we look at their mothers as well. Right. What about nutritional excess? So here it is, we have children who have a body mass index, when you look at the growth chart, in the 85 to 95 percentile, and we consider those overweight, and if they're over 95 percentiles, we consider that to be obese. And obesity has emerged as one of the most common nutritional disorders worldwide. Why is that? We find that children are consuming too much foods and drinks that are energy dense, which means they're high in sugars and fats, and they're engaging in less physical activities, right? What's the problem with a overweight or obese child? These children continue along this level, and they put themselves at risk for diseases that are associated with overweight. Major ones: cardiovascular diseases, certain cancers, diabetes. The cardiovascular diseases will lead to heart attacks and strokes, right? So these are the reasons we have to be concerned. Here you have a little cycle there showing a healthy child becoming a mildly obese child, and then they become an obese adult. And the diseases that follow these children continue with them to their adult age. So you find that they get high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, associated sleep disturbances, even the orthopedic problems, and of course, psychosocial problems because they tend to be bullied because of their weight. And as I said before, obese children become overweight, are likely become overweight and as adults. So, what can we do, to help with this? We can start in pregnancy. Mothers, before you even consider having a child, you should be healthy as well, right? And there are certain things that once you know you are pregnant, you should avoid, right? So, too much vitamin A or retinol, even the creams on your skin for your acne, these are teratogenic. And what is a teratogen? It's anything that causes a birth defect in the child, or it might halt the pregnancy throughout, outright, right? So, folic acid. If you don't have enough folic acid, you get neural tube defects. You may find a child that has spina bifida, that's the bulge at the base of the spine, or the brain may not develop at all. So you might find children with no brain or just part of a brain. If the mother is not getting enough iron in her diet, she will suffer from anemia. The fetus will suffer from anemia. If the mother is intaking alcohol, there's no safe level of alcohol, right? It causes teratogenic effects. And then some people want a little caffeine. Again, they said there's no safe level of caffeine and it can cause spontaneous abortions. In the infants and children themselves, if they're not getting enough of these nutrients, we find that they have a lot of deficiencies that they can develop. You get iron deficiency, as we said, causing the anemias. And this can also be because if you give that child before a year, you start giving them cow's milk, their bodies have not developed enough to absorb it or to metabolize it, and it can cause iron deficiencies. Vitamin D and calcium deficiency leads to poor bone density. So you may find a child with rickets. They have the bent bones, soft bones, enlarged joints and skulls, deformed chests, spinal curvature, and the bowed legs. Then things like fluoride. If they're not getting enough fluoride from brushing their teeth with fluoride toothpaste, it leads to cavities, right? If they're not getting enough protein, this can lead to stunting, as we discussed before, where you have a child who is low weight for their height and age, right? Some other things we can look at. Vitamin B, leading to beriberi. They have weak muscles and very little energy. Vitamin C, their gums swell and bleed, right? And wounds don't heal, right? Iodine. This is why most of our salts, you realize when you go to the supermarket, the salts have iodine in it. Some governments have taken the initiative to fortify a lot of foods so that they can avoid some of these diseases in children, right? There are many things that I won't go into all of them. There's so many, but a lot of these vitamins and minerals are so essential for your child's health. And you may find that when these are corrected, this child who has just been a little weak, always tired, always inattentive, can't seem to concentrate, some of these things can be corrected by correcting their diets, right? This slide just shows some of the things that mothers should avoid during pregnancy as well. Alcohol, tobacco, all drugs, right? Radiation, some medications, right? All these can cause effects, birth defects in the children. And then do not expose yourself as well to people who have certain diseases like chicken pox. This can damage the eyes of the child. Right. One more thing I would like to look at are food allergies. So some children are not getting the foods they need because they can't eat certain things. So what happens is that toddlers' diets can contain things that they're allergic to: cow's milk, eggs, wheat, peanuts, tree nuts, soya, right? Some parents even suspect that their children are allergic to the additives and colorants in foods, but this is rare. they said only 3%, 0.03% of the population. If a food allergy is suspected, it is important that the toddler is referred to a pediatrician or an allergy clinic for investigation and appropriate dietary advice. A diet that eliminates an important food, such as milk or wheat, must contain adequate nutrients for growth and development, so professional advice should be sought. Now, it's good to know that most children grow out of their food allergies, especially if they started in infancy. So you find that 90% of infants with cow's milk protein allergy recover by the time they are 3. Peanut allergy, however, is an exception and is more likely to be lifelong. From the things that make you suspect the allergies, eczemas, asthmas, right? Also, if you have a parent or a sibling who has a similar allergy, you may suspect it in your child, right? And then these children should be reviewed by their general practitioner, health visitor, or an allergy specialist before restarting any of these foods, right? Foods removed from the diet because of the risk of an allergy can be slowly reintroduced in small amounts between the ages of 1 and 3, but this must be done under medical supervision. Right, so what can we say? As the previous presenters spoke about, there are a lot of things that children can eat and a lot of ways to get them to eat healthy. Remember, even before the child becomes a preschooler, mothers, you're important in providing adequate nutrition for your child. Encourage the children to eat with the family. Encourage lots of fruits and vegetables, whole grain products, non-fat or low-fat dairy products, nuts and seeds. And instead of juice, let them drink water. So now I've come to the end. I want to ask, is there any questions?
Okay. Well, I have one question that was sent to me. The question is, can undernutrition be corrected? And if so, how?
All right. So you may have a child who, let's say, let's use a common example as what we're seeing here in Trinidad. People coming over from Venezuela as refugees. They may not have had enough to eat there. They come to Trinidad, there's a lot of food, and they want to eat everything inside. This is not advisable. We have an illness that we call refeeding syndrome that they may be prone to because too much of a good thing is not good, right? So they need to be admitted to the hospital. The underlying cause of the malnutrition will need to be treated, and they need to be fed and rehydrated with great care, and they cannot start a normal diet right away. Once they are stable, right, these children can be reintroduced to a normal diet. So some points that I found, I went back to my old textbooks to prepare for this thing. They said, refeed slowly, gradually increase fluid, salt, and calories. Begin with just 50% of their needs, and you provide multivitamin and mineral supplements. Once you've corrected all the electrolyte abnormalities, then you may start small amounts of calories, increasing 10% per day until all the electrolyte imbalances are corrected. And then you can start normal food.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much, Dr. Gary. There's another question, I believe the final question to the nutritionist. Are there any other methods beside hiding the undesirable foods in other foods to get picky eaters to want to eat them, especially vegetables, seeing that these are nutrient dense? Could we have Sister Walker answering this for us? Sister Alana Walker? Oh, she's coming back on. Sister Gary, since you're a mom and you have picky eaters, maybe you want to answer it for us?
No problem. One of the things that I found work well, as Sister Walker said, the foods that the children like, right? You give them more of those with the added nutrients. So, as she said, you can make your own things that may resemble what they like, and they may not even know it's made from something different, right? So, in addition to that, some of the things we encourage as medical professionals is fortifying foods and giving it to them. So, for my daughter, I had to use a lot of fortified beverages to make sure that she did not, become um, did not have any undernutrition, so that she's well on the food charts.
Thank you
On the
very much.
growth chart, sorry.
That was able to answer Brother Kerwin Stevens. So I want to thank you all so much for the informative information that was given this evening, reminding most of us too, as parents. At this time, I want to hand over to Sister Margaret Chrysostom, the manager, head of our Ayapa bookstore, because some of the information some may not remember, but through our books, they can get it. So, Sister Margaret, you want to tell us now about our particular health books for children?
Well, good evening to everyone, all
Indeed.
viewers, and I'm really excited about what I just heard. If parents were really to follow what these two presenters just presented, we'd have some really healthy kids.
Oh,
And to
yes.
support what they have just said, the bookstore wants to partner with every parent. We are introducing this book. It's called Celebration because we believe in the New Start program, which talks about nutrition and exercise and water and all the factors that make us healthy. But celebration was specially written for children, with the celebration meaning choices, the little choices we make that add up, exercise, keep moving, liquids, the water we drink, environment, the big house we live in with our families that make us healthy, beliefs, building on strong foundations, rest, charging our batteries, air, fresher and better, temperance, how to say no, integrity and optimism, the way I feel and the choices I make, nutrition, choosing the best building materials, and service, helping others make me happy. So celebrations have tons of exercises for them while they draw and they color and they learn about all that it takes to make them healthy, will support what you as the parent is trying to put into them. So when we teach them from young how to eat right, how to think right, the importance of water and exercise and rest, when they reach older, even though they are being told by their peers and by the media that they should eat unhealthy foods, you have already put into their minds the importance of eating healthy. So,
Correct.
Celebration is the book for kids today that will encourage them to be healthy inside and out. I also want to introduce another one. This one is called The Most Surprising Machine. And this one talks to them about how their body functions. You are what you eat. And
Correct.
it is full of puzzles and crosswords. And as they learn about their body and how important it is to be healthy. So when you have these books in your home that teaching the children how important it is to eat right, to think right, to behave right, you're going to have some real healthy kids. And that's what we want. We want healthy kids. We want a healthier nation.
That's
So
right.
these are the books that I wanted to introduce this evening. We have a sale on Monday and Tuesday, and they will be going at 30% off. So get them for your kids.
Thank you very much. I take this opportunity now to thank all our presenters, even about our books, because truly we have reached the stage where we need to begin teaching children the importance of proper nutrition from small, as we build their immunity, as they eat healthy, as their brains develop, we truly will have healthy people in society. So I thank you to all the presenters. A special thank you to Miss Elma Frederick Brutes from the Education Department, that we were able to partner with them in helping our children and the parents to know how to assist these children in healthy choices, packing healthy stuff in their lunch kits. May God truly bless us as we continue to look forward every month, the last Sunday in the month, to talking more about our kids' health. As we close, I'd like to offer a word of prayer. Shall we pray? Gracious Father, we thank you for the wealth of information shared this evening. We thank you for our presenters. We thank you for our online viewers or our listening public. We thank you, Lord, that what you have given us in your word, how to be healthy, we can also utilize it for our children. Continue in a special way to bless the parents as they have to shop and as they have to make the various snacks, healthy snacks, and provide for their children, because truly we are what we eat. Continue to bless us, bless our parents, bless our presenters, bless our leaders. We praise and thank you in Jesus' name. Amen. Have a pleasant evening. Look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you.